तव कथामृतम् तप्तजीवनम् कविभिरीडितम् कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततम् भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः।
ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. We are studying the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We are in chapter 32, visit to the Sinti Brahma Samaj. In Veni-Madhav Pal's garden house, there used to be the autumnal Brahmo festival. And Sri Ramakrishna is October 19, 1884, and Sri Ramakrishna has gone there, and after singing, he is talking to the Brahmo devotees. One sub-judge within those Brahmo devotees is mainly asking his questions. And the first question he asked was, Sir, does God show more grace to one than to another? If so, he can be accused of the fault of partiality. Sri Ramakrishna is replying to it by telling the facts of life. That in life we do see that some people are more endowed than the others. And therefore, the attraction of those people also is more than others. So this is the fact of life. Call it God's grace or what you like. Now at that point, another Brahmo devotee tells that sub. To that, Thakur did not like that intervention, and he sharply told that Brahmo devotee, you are like a counterfeit coin. How should he accept without understanding? So, in Bengali, unless he believes what I am telling, why should he accept? So let him come to a conviction. And that continues, and Thakur is answering all his questions in great detail from the practical point of view. His next question is, Sir, must we renounce the world? And that Thakur is replying, we find two positions, Thakur is said. Firstly, you must practice sadhana in solitude before you enter the householder's life. That is common thing. But in the beginning he says, after you realize God, then you can live in the world. In the conclusion he says that you can live in the world when you have become a women and gold will not be able to harm you in the least if you go home and lead householder's life after increasing your spiritual strength and developing love for the lotus feet of God through the practice of spiritual discipline in solitude. So, first is telling after realization. Secondly is telling that increasing spiritual strength and developing love for the lotus feet of God through the practice of spiritual discipline in solitude. So this seems to be the basic minimum, and best is after realization. That is how we can understand. Because there will be no contradiction in Thakur's words. So best is that, and secondly, this much at least you have to do. And then he says, it is confirmed, this second point, because live in the world, but in order to realize God. That means before realizing God, you are living in the world. Hold fast to his lotus feet with one hand, and with the other do your duties. So this much position you must get, that you are holding God's feet firmly by one hand. That is, tallies with the second position. And with the other do your duties. When you get a respite from your duties, cling to God's lotus feet with both hands. So that is the position. Develop love for God, and what was one more point? Increase spiritual strength, develop love of God, and then you are entering the householder's life. So it is possible for you now to hold God's feet permanently by one hand, and by the other do your work, but there also, as soon as you get respite, hold God's feet with both the hands. This much is the answer. After realization, stay in householder's life, no harm. Or, and that is in solitude. Or in solitude, practice sadhana till you get a spirit, increase your spiritual strength and develop love of God. Then you can live in the householder's life. Woman and gold will not harm you. And in that householder's life, you have to hold God's feet with one hand and by the other do work, but as soon as there is respite, hold God's feet by both the hands. So this is the full instruction. Live in solitude. So this is why living in the householder's life. As soon as there is respite, hold God's feet with both the hands means go to solitude and think of God. So equivalence and connections are to be clearly understood. That beginning solitude, develop strength of mind and love for God, then enter householder's life, hold God's feet with one hand, do work by the other hand, As soon as there is a respite, again go to solitude. And that is how you can hold God's feet with both the hands. If you are still in the house, how is that possible? So this is the full instructions. At this point, we read now from today's portion, subject, joyously. Sir, these are very beautiful words indeed. Of course, one must practice spiritual discipline in solitude. But we forget all about it. We think we have become King Janaka outright. The master and the devotees laugh. I feel very happy and peaceful even to hear that there is no need to give up the world. So, those who live in the world are so much attached that they can realize God in living in the house. They feel joyful and peaceful. They don't have to give up. And that God can be realized from home as well. So that is a great assurance to an householder. He is ready to go to solitude and practice sadhana, but he will not have to give up house permanently. That is assurance. Master, why should you give up the world? Since you must fight, it is wise for you to fight from a foe. So Thakur has always equated the householder's life for God realization, not for enjoyment. But it is living in a fort and fighting, not in the open field, because you have a lot of protection there. Now, what is the fight? Who is the enemy and what is the fight? You must fight against your sense organs, against your hunger and thirst. So live in the householder's life, but there is a struggle against the sense organs, against your hunger and thirst. So the fight has to be quite intense, clear about the ideal. You can live in the householder's life. Therefore, you will be wise to face the battle from the world. Further, in the Kali Yuga, the life of a man depends on his food. If one day you have nothing to eat, then you will forget all about God. So, in the house you live. A man once said to his wife, I am going to leave the world. She was a sensible woman, she said. Why should you wander about if you don't have to knock at 10 doors for your stomach's sake? Go. But if that is the case, then better live in this one place. That is how the wife has suggested. If you have to go about 10 houses, knock at the door of the 10 houses, if you are ready for that, go. That is the sannyasi's life. Now here I have to tell something. We in the Ramakrishna Mission or any established ashrama, our senior Swami Niraman used to say, we are establishmentarians, half householders, because cooking and food is assured. So, fighting from the fort here also, the difference is there that we are not living amongst wife and children. But otherwise, that food necessity is taken care of. Again I say, Why should you give up the world? Again I say, you will find it more convenient at home. You won't have to worry about food. You may even live with your wife. It isn't harmful. You will find near at hand all that the body needs at different times. Only live with the wife is a mild translation in English. The original Bengali says Sahavas. Sahavas means, okay, sleeping with the wife. That also is allowed. It isn't harmful for an householder. And whatever needs of the body you have at hand. When you are ill, you will have someone near you to nurse you. So these are the differences. Sannyasi doesn't care for his health. In ashrama, there are many people to take care of you. Sages like Janaka, Vyasa and Vasishtha lived in the world after attaining knowledge. They has come back to the original example. Because Vyasa and Vasishtha, they are known to be householders. Vyasa had a son, Shukadeva. And about Vasishtha, they said he has 100 sons or 1,000 sons. But they are sages, celebrated sages. So Thakur is giving their example. After attaining knowledge. So in their case, after attaining knowledge, they are living in the world. They fenced with two swords, the one of knowledge and the other of action. So now a new question has come after attaining knowledge. So the sub-judge asks, how can we know that we have knowledge? Because he has to test himself. And so he wants the test. Master, when one has knowledge, one does not see God anymore at a distance. There, no, here. One does not think of him anymore as he. He becomes this. Then he is seen in one's own heart. God dwells in every man. He who seeks God realizes him. So, knowledge means to feel that I am not different from God. God is not away from me. He is in my heart. He is the center of my experience. No, that has terrified the subject. He understands as he is far away from that state. So he says, subject, sir, I am a sinner. How can I say that God dwells in me? So God dwells in you. Thakur is telling it is a fact for everybody. But if you are able to experience that, then you have knowledge. Now this very fact that God lives in everybody, this must be adhered to as a conviction, as a faith that he is not able. Many people in the world have this position. I am a sinner. How can I say God is in me? And this Thakur does not like at all. Master, that is the one trouble with you Brahmos. With you it is always sin and sin. That is the Christian view, isn't it? Once a man gave me a Bible. A part of it was read to me, and it was full of that one thing, sin and sin. One must have such faith that one can say, I have uttered the name of God, I have repeated the name of Rama or Hari. How can I be sinner? One must have faith in the glory of God's name. So, you may not be able to perceive, but you must have that faith that I have taken God's name. How can I be the sinner? This is Thakur's constant advice to everybody. He does not like the idea of sin at all. If you are a devotee of God, you should have that faith. Subject. Sir, how can one have such faith? Master, have passionate love for God. So faith is generated when you have love for God, passionate love for God. One of your Brahma songs says, "O Lord, is it ever possible to know Thee without love? However much one may perform worship and sacrifice." So don't remain in the ritualistic portion, develop love of God. Pray to God in secret and with yearning. So again that solitude has come. Pray to God in secret and with yearning that you may have the passionate attachment and devotion to Him. Shed tears for Him. Aha. A man sheds a jug full of tears because his wife is sick, or because he is losing money, or because he is worrying about getting a job. But tell me, whoever weeps for God? Trilokya. Not that subject, but another famous Brahma devotee. Sir, where is people's leisure? They must serve the English masters. So all this is possible when you have some time. To that, Thakur is the solution. If a man is sincere, Thakur is the solution for every situation, mind you. Master, well then, give God the power of attorney. That means I, the doer, should not be there. If you don't have time, then it does not require time. If you cultivate the attitude that you are not the doer, then God will take care. Remember, this is the message of the 12th chapter of the Gita. ये तो सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्परः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्तो उपासते तेषाम् अहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्यु संसार सागरात् भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मय्या वेशित चेतसाम्. So if the mind is given to God, if the doership is given to God, then it becomes His responsibility. If a man entrusts his affairs to a good person, will the latter do him any harm? With all the sincerity of your heart, resign yourself to God and drive all your worries out of your mind. Do whatever duties He has assigned to you. The kitten does not have a calculating mind. It only cries mew mew. It lies in the kitchen contentedly if the mother car leaves it there, and only calls the mother crying mew mew. It has the same feeling of contentment when the mother cat puts it on the soft bed of the master of the house. It only cries for its mother. That is the example of surrender. If you feel any trouble, cry for mother. Sub-judge. Sir, we are householders. How long should we perform our worldly duties? So practical question. Because as householders, they have their worldly duties. And will it time come when we will give it up? That is the question. We are not renouncing the world, but the worldly duties will a time come when they will go. So, how long should we perform our worldly duties, Master? Surely you have duties to perform. You must bring up your children, support your wife, and provide for her in case of your death. If you don't, then I shall call you unkind. So, Thakur is very clear on this point. If you are living in the house, you have duties. If you don't keep money for your wife after your death, I shall call you cruel. And yet, hold God by one hand, and whenever you are leisure, hold by both hands. So these are the necessities of the householder's life. One must stick to both sides consciously. Sages like Shukadeva had compassion. He who has no compassion is no man. So, equivalent is telling this, keeping money for wife and others, and involves compassion. And even the sages, Shukadeva and others had compassion. Without compassion, he is no man. Carelessness is not recommended at all. Now, subject further practical questions. How long should one support one's children? This is very important. Master, as long as they have not reached their majority. Majority not in the number sense. Minor, major. That is majority. So, when he becomes major, till then you have to take care. When the chick becomes a full-grown bird and can look after itself, then the mother bird pecks it and doesn't allow it to come near her on love. So the example is beautiful, there people laugh. But here is the difference. They drive them away. And man never wants to give up his son. Some judges asked a sincere question. So Thakur is answering it. An example comes to my mind immediately. In Nagpur, there was Dr. Nirula, principal of Science College. He had 2 sons and 1 daughter. And the daughter had some physical problem from childhood, maybe polio or something. But she had passed many examinations. She was quite intelligent. And these 2 sons, the father bore expenses for their education in England. And after they are employed in England, both of them, still the father is sending money to them. And then his wife had died. And then he wanted to write that house, his own house, in the name of these sons. At that point, the poor daughter committed suicide. And then he is weeping and weeping and weeping. And the sadhu said, we have told you repeatedly that now you should not care for the sons. Your girl has liability, she is not going to get married. So at least the house should be for her. This much attachment grows in man. They are married, have jobs, and still the father sends them money, and he wanted to sell his house or to put it in their name. He wanted to sell perhaps for giving more money to them. So these are things of the world. Now the subject. What is the householder's duty to his wife? He wants practical guidance. Master, you should give her spiritual advice and support her during your lifetime and provide for her livelihood after your death, if she is a chaste wife. One writer he has put there. Now, another side. Another side. You may be a householder, but if you are intoxicated with the knowledge of God, intoxicated with the knowledge of God, Jivan-Vikas. So knowledge is not theoretical. Knowledge means change of consciousness. Then you have no more duties to perform. All duties cancelled. Then God himself will think about your morrow if you yourself cannot do so. Maybe householder or whatever. God himself will think about your family if you are intoxicated with him. If a landlord dies leaving behind a minor son, then a guardian appointed by the court takes charge of the son. These are all points of law, you know them, because he is a subject. So Thakur gives legal examples. Subject, yes, sir. At this point, Vijay Goswami is intervening. Vijay, priceless words. God himself carries on his shoulders the responsibility of a person who thinks of him with single-minded devotion and is mad with divine love. A minor gets his guardian without seeking him. Alas, when shall I have that state of mind? How lucky they are who feel that way. A genuine aspiration. Trilokya. Is it ever possible, sir, to have true knowledge of God? Skepticism. While living in the world, can one realize God here? Master with a smile. Why do you worry? You are enjoying both trackle and refined sugar. Because he thinks I cannot realize God. Thakur says you are devoted to God and in the world. Let us continue that. Allah. You are living in the world with your mind in God. Isn't that true? Why shouldn't a man realize God in the world? Certainly he can. I am reminded of my Guruji's advice to my brother. The pattern of your life is different. Trilokya. What are the signs of a householder's having attained knowledge? Now he is asking about signs of knowledge that man had asked, but now he is specifically asking householders having attained knowledge. Master, his tears will flow and the hair on his body will stand on end. No sooner does he hear the sweet name of God, man of knowledge, mind you. I told you an incident in Mahapuruji's life, seeing which my teacher said, one who has seen this, even if 1,000 people tell him there is any conflict between knowledge and devotion, will he agree? So, Thakur's telling that. Householder attained knowledge. Master, his tears will flow, and the hair on his body will stand on end. No sooner does he hear the sweet name of God than the hair on his body stands on end from sheer delight, and tears roll down his cheeks. I think I shall repeat that example. A man of knowledge and how devotional symptoms come out of him. My Guruji, college student, used to go to Mahaguruji and read the seventh mantra of the Mandukya Upanishad. Realization of God, which cannot be described, is best described in that mantra. And Mahaguruji used to explain. And while explaining, he used to go into that higher spiritual state. My Guruji has said, let me repeat openly. From sitting, he used to stand up. The cloth on his body would drop out. His chest has become red. His eyes are looking upwards. And the male organ has receded into his body. That part has become plain. At such a point, there is to be Durga Puja, and the brahmachari who is to conduct that puja comes to Mahaprabhuji, touches his feet and says, Maharaj, now there will be mother's worship, please give your permission. My Guruji says, within a fraction of a second, those symptoms change into Ashta Sattvic Vikara, they are described as here. The speech becomes throttled, the hair stand on end, and tears flow from the eyes. That happened. And saying, Mother, Mother, he started going to the balcony from which he could see the mother. So Thakur is not telling any impossible thing. His tears will flow and the hair on his body will stand on end. No sooner does he hear the sweet name of God than the hair on his body stands on end from sheer delight, and tears will roll down his cheeks. A man cannot get rid of body consciousness as long as he is attached to worldly things and loves woman and God. Comes back to that. Enjoyment and means of enjoyment, love for both. As he becomes less and less attached to worldly things, gradation. He approaches nearer and nearer to the knowledge of self. Gradation. These are some Thakur's special beauties. He also becomes less and less conscious of his body. Gradation. He attains self-knowledge when his worldly attachment totally disappears. Not till then. He may live in the world. Then he realizes that body and soul are two separate things. It is very difficult to separate with a knife the kernel of a coconut from the shell before the milk inside has dried up. When the milk dries up, the kernel rattles inside the shell. At that time, it loosens itself from the shell. Then the fruit is called a dry coconut. That is the example. The sign of a man's having realized God is that he has become like a dry coconut. He has become utterly free from the consciousness that he is the body. He does not feel happy or unhappy with the happiness or unhappiness of the body. He does not seek the comforts of the body. He roams about in the world as a Jivan-Mukta, one liberated in life. The devotee of Kali is a Jivan-Mukta, full of eternal bliss. Now, started from an household. and now he roams in the world. When you find that the very mention, all this is a beautiful, practical, theoretical instruction about how man starts living in the house, he realizes God, how is his life afterwards. When you find that the very mention of God's name brings tears to your eyes and makes your hair stand on end, then you will know that you have freed yourself from attachment to woman and gold and attained God. If the matches are dry, you get a spark by striking only one of them. But if they are damp, you don't get a spark even if you strike 50. You only waste matches. Similarly, if your mind is soaked in the pleasure of the worldly things, in woman and God, then God consciousness will not be kindled in you. You may try 1,000 times, but all your efforts will be futile. But no sooner does attachment to worldly pleasures dry up than the spark of God flashes. So state of the mind very clear. Sannyasi or also. Form of life different. Trilokya. What is the way to drive the craving for worldly pleasure? So they are going on asking from very practical point of view. Master, pray to the Divine Mother. Now he is asking way. Pray to the Divine Mother with a longing heart. Her vision dries up all cravings for the world. So experiencing the Divine Mother will dry up that craving. Niraharasya dehina rasavarjam विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिना रसवर्जम रसोप्यस्य परम दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते. People will not give you to eat if you are decided not to eat, but the attachment to that is still there. Only when you realize God, then that attachment will vanish. Her vision dries up all cravings for the world and completely destroys all attachment to woman and gold. It happens instantly if you think of her as your own mother. Instantly it can happen if you can really feel she is your mother. She is by no means a godmother. That means not that I mentally decided to believe that she is a mother. No, she is actually the mother. She is your own mother. With a yearning heart, persist in your demands on her. The child holds to the skirt of its mother and begs a penny of her to buy a kite. Perhaps the mother is gossiping with her friends. At first, she refuses to give the penny and says to the child, "No, you can't have it. Your daddy has asked me not to give you money. When he comes home, I will ask him about it. You will get into trouble if you play with a kite now." So many things she is telling. The child begins to cry and will not give up his demand. Then the mother says to her friends, "Excuse me a moment, let me pacify the child." What beautiful examples, Sakuras, from the world, from the practical happenings of the world. Immediately she unlocks the cash box with a click and throws the child a penny. So, because of your love of mother, you have made her your own and you can press your demands on her. You too must force your demand on the Divine Mother. She will come to you without fail. I once said the same thing to some Sikhs when they visited the temple at Dakshineshwar. We were conversing in front of the Kali temple. They said, God is compassionate. Why compassionate, I asked. They said, why, revered sir? He constantly looks after us, gives us righteousness and wealth, and provides us with our food. Righteousness and wealth God is giving. Dharma, artha, sabdi, achin. Okay. So even our punya is God given. Suppose I said, among the children, who will look after them and provide them with food? Their own father or a man from another village. If God has produced us, He is doing. Now it should not mean God is not kind, but God is our own is the lesson. So the subject asked, is not God then compassionate, sir? Master, why should you think that? I just made a remark. What I mean to say is that God is our very own. Never think that God is not kind. We can exert force on Him. With one's own people, one can even go as far as to say, you rascal, won't you give it to me? When the intimacy has grown, even such words are used. To the subject, let me ask you one thing. Are vanity and egotism the result of knowledge or of ignorance? So anybody should discriminate from here. Starting point. Egotism is of the nature of tamas. It is begotten by ignorance. On account of the barrier of ego, one does not see God. All troubles come to an end when the ego dies. It is futile to be egotistic. Neither body nor wealth will last. Once a drunkard was looking at the image of Durga. At the sight of her decorations, he said, well, mother, however you may fix yourself up, after 2 or 3 days, they will drag you out and throw you into the Ganges. Because he is an intoxicated man, he is speaking like that, truth. But they laugh. So I say to you all, you may be a judge or anybody else, but it is all for 2 days only. Remember that. Therefore, you should give up vanity and pride. So that is the main sadhana. The characteristics of sattva, rajas and tamas are very different. Egotism, sleep, gluttony, lust, anger and the like are the traits of people with tamas. Men with rajas entangle themselves in many activities. Such a man has clothes all spick and span. His house is immaculately clean. A portrait of the queen hangs on a wall in the drawing room. When he worships God, he wears a silk cloth. He has a string of full description of the man with rajas. He has a string of rudraksha beads around his neck, and in between the beads he puts a few gold ones. When someone comes to visit the worship hall in his house, he himself acts as guide. After showing the hall, he says to the visitor, please come this way, sir. There are other things too. The floor of white marble and the Nath Mandir with its exquisite carvings. Nath Mandir is the hall attached to the main Garbha center. When he gives in charity, he makes a show of it. But a man endowed with sattva is quiet and peaceful. So far as dress is concerned, anything will do. Some similarity with the Tamomana, but opposite diagonally. He earns only enough money to give his stomach the simplest of food. He never flatters men to get money. His house is out of repair. He never worries about his children's clothing. He does not hanker for name and fame. His worship, charity, and meditation are all done in secret. People do not know about them at all. He meditates inside his mosquito curtain. This is something for foreigners to understand. They may not have mosquitoes. In India, there are a lot of mosquitoes everywhere, and so people usually use the mosquito curtain. Now, outside man does not see you. So you sleep is over, you sit up within the mosquito curtain and meditate. People will not know you at all. People think he doesn't sleep well at night and for that reason sleeps late in the morning. Sattva is the last step of the stair. Next is the roof. As soon as Sattva is acquired, there is no further delay in attaining God. One step forward and God is realized to these subjects. Didn't you say that all men are very equal? Now it's taken to the original point. Now you see that there are so many varieties of human nature. He has shown the different ways. There are still other classes and kinds of people. For instance, there are those who are eternally free from spiritual point of view now. Those who have attained liberation, those strugglers for liberation, and those entangled in the world. Remember, he has started from there. Ideal. So many varieties of men. Sages like Narada and Shukadeva are eternally free. They are like a steamship which not only crosses the ocean but can carry big animals, even an elephant. So they can carry other people. Further, the soul that is eternally free is like the superintendent of an estate. After bringing one part of the estate under control, he goes to another. That is called Adhikarik Purush. Those struggling for liberation strive hard, heart and soul, to free themselves from the net of the world. One or two of them get out of the net. They are called the liberated. The souls that are eternally free are like clever fish. They are never caught in the net. About the clever fish, there are two types. Girish Babu said, if Maya makes the net bigger and bigger, Swami Vivekananda becomes still bigger. Maya cannot catch it. If Maya's net is minute and minute, Nag Bhasha becomes still small and passes through. So, no I and I am the cosmic. That is also no individual I. But the souls that are entangled, involved in worldliness, never come to their senses. They lie in the net, but are not even conscious that they are entangled. That is the main symptom. The bound jiva will never think he is bound. If you speak of God before them, they at once leave the place. They say, why God now? We shall think of him in the hour of death. But when they lie on their deathbeds, they say to their wives or children, why have you put so many weeks in the lamp? Use only 1 week. Otherwise, too much oil will be burned. While dying, they think of their wives and children and weep. Alas, what will happen to them after my death? The entangled souls repeat those very actions that make them suffer so much. Blindness. They are like the camel which eats thorny bushes till the blood streams from its mouth, but still will not give them up. Such a man may have lost his son and be stricken with grief, but still he will have children year after year. He may ruin himself by his daughter's marriage, but still will go on having daughters every year. And he says, ruin means giving dowry in the Indian custom. And he says, what can I do? It's just my luck. When he goes to a holy place, he doesn't have any time to think of God. He almost kills himself carrying bundles for his wife. Entering the temple, he is very eager to give his child the holy water to drink or make him roll on the floor, but he has no time for his own devotion. These bound creatures slave for their masters to earn food for themselves and their families, and they earn money by lying, cheating, flattery. They laugh at those who think of God and meditate on Him and call them lunatics. So you see how many different kinds of men are there. You said that all men were equal, but how many varieties of men there are? Some have more power and some less. The entangled creatures attached to worldliness talk only of worldly things in the hour of death. What will it avail such men if they outwardly repeat the name of God, take a bath in the Ganges, or visit sacred places, if they cherish within themselves attachment to the world? It must show up at the hour of death. So you cannot decide that at the hour of death I'll chant the name of God. It will never come. While dying, they rave nonsense. Perhaps they cry out in a delirium. Turmeric powder, seasoning, bay leaf, out of delirium. The singing parrot, when at ease, repeat the holy names of Radha and Krishna. But when it is seized by a cat, because it does not understand, no feeling. But when it is seized by a cat, it utters its own natural sound. It quacks, kan kan. It is said in the Gita that whatever one thinks in the hour of death, one becomes in the afterlife. King Bharata gave up his body exclaiming, "Dear, dear," well, heard this story and was born as a deer in his next life. But if a man dies thinking of God, then he attains God, and he does not have to come back to the life of this world. So, we close here. Some more questions and answers are there. We'll take them up on Monday. A comprehensive treatment we got in this chapter. Om Tava Kathāmritam Tapta Jivanam Kaviviridhitam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadaatatam Bhuigrananti Ye Bhurida Jana. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamast.